Welcome, everyone, to the very first 100,000 or maybe a million episodes of the Creative Muffins podcast, where imagination rises one story at a time. I'm Joshua Alhassan, a fellow creative and your host. I started Creative Muffins as a space to stir up real, unfiltered conversations about the creative journey, whether you're just getting started or you've been in the game for years. In each episode, we'll explore the highs and lows and everything in between, from personal experiences and creative habits to industry insights and moments of unexpected inspiration. So grab your coffee, sketchbook, or camera, and let's rise together. If you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe and share with someone who needs a creative spark today. Let's get into it. So, our first guest began his career in publishing and advertising, working for 17 years at Mega Colors, a printing and photography company, and at Crispin, Porter plus Bogusky, a renowned advertising agency. In 2011, he transitioned to entrepreneurship by opening his private practice, which is called MindClarity in Fort Lauderdale, where he focused on coaching and hypnotherapy to help clients overcome challenges and achieve their goals. He wrote his first book, Mastering Success, in 2013, followed by seven more titles, including three children's books. As his coaching practice evolved, he transitioned to fully online coaching and launched his new venture, Korjeh, to reach clients more effectively in the digital space. Driven by a passion for design and development, he has worked on both small and large scale web and app projects, blending creativity and functionality to deliver solutions that empower businesses and individuals. Since 2021, he has served as a web strategist and front-end developer at Bright Minds Processing, a nonprofit organization. Currently, he's developing two subscription-based platforms and a social app that leverages AI to enhance the user experience. He's dedicated to combining his expertise in coaching, technology, and design to help individuals and businesses thrive. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. J.R. Incer.
Thank you, Joshua. Thank you so much.
Wow.
Thank you for your kind introduction, and thank you to everyone who's listening to us today.
So how have you been and how is it going?
Doing well. Thank you so much. Having a beautiful day here. Currently, I live in Georgia, so it's beautiful spring morning.
Okay, so let's not waste more time. I know you're a very busy person. I mean, everyone could listen to the lengthy introduction, but I know that that's just a little of everything that you've put your hands into and you've strived to achieve. So I will not waste more time or more of your time. I have a few questions that I'll be asking you, and we have you here, of course, to learn from you, to see from your experience things that we could also adopt in our lifestyle, things that could also inspire us to make certain moves in our lives. And so, if you don't mind, if it's fine by you, of course, I would like to ask some questions and have you share some of your wonderful experiences with us.
Well, thank you so much. On once, again, thank you so much for your invitation for us, for me to be here today. Enjoy you opening this space for people to learn, to be able to grow, in the industry, just beside not only in the industry, but just people who listen and just want to learn.
Thank you very much, Jose. So the first question I'll be asking is creativity something one is born with, or can one develop it?
It's a great question. So, as we know, creativity can be developed over time. Okay, there are people who are born with talent, right? So there's a lot of people who are very talented, and they can actually utilize that, that skill, that talent, which is innate. But um, as far as creativity is something that that is not, there's a lot of people who can actually develop that skill. So it's something that they can actually work over time. So creativity is, as we see it today, it can be expressed in so many different ways. It can be basically today using technology. So we have today working in a team with, like, let's say in a group, let's say like in an agency, or working as an entrepreneur. Just So creativity is just something that I believe that is something that is a skill that we can learn over time. Now there are people who are very talented, and they have it's just innate. It's just something that they really are born with it, right? And something that actually, I won't say that it will make it easier, but definitely you can see, you can actually perceive that, that they are good at what they do. But and just to take this a little bit further, this creativity is great on itself, right? But you actually need to develop that skill, okay? And not only that, but you need to um, add to that skill of creativity. So for example, um, consistency and persistency. Is very important in the field of being a creative. So let's say, for example, in content creation, like content management, right? Content creation, where a person is basically where, let's say, someone that is really good at what they do, they can create good content. Like the content that, like how we have heard in the industry, content is king, right? So being
Yeah.
having be able to be creative, being able to bring new ideas to the marketplace is key today, because as everyone knows now, there's an abundant information. In fact, there's too much information. We're flooded every day with information, social media, with AI, with what we see in every type of media, and like in the news and TV and radio. So there's a lot of information out there, but um, in a way that actually most people nowadays are able to kind of like block all the information. So a person that so as a designer, as today we all like all type of in this field, the creators have to find very creative ways to actually communicate ideas through different media. Okay, so yeah, so I would say that, just to answer your question, that I believe that there's people who are
Yeah.
born with talents, but creativity is something that is a skill that we can learn over time.
So, from your answer, I'm wondering, is you like you said, it's a skill that can be learned over time. Is it possible to align yourself with creativity by emulating a certain lifestyle or personality? So, to rephrase the question, is there a personality that you have to put on in order to inspire creativity in yourself? And how if this is true, what are some of the personalities, or what's an ideal personality that a creative should have?
There are certain, I would say, traits that could help a person, become better at being creative, right? So for example, over the years I have worked, as you mentioned in the introduction, I have worked in several large companies, okay? And what I have seen, that there's a type of some traits in people that actually help them being able to become, or to stand out. So for example, I myself, I wouldn't not consider myself like a super talented creative person, but I'm good at what I do. Okay, where I
Now
met
that's
in
you
the
being honest. That's you being honest.
thank you. But it's just that over the years, in the experience working in the advertising world, in agencies, and or companies with, like, photography, printing, I've come across a lot of real talented individuals. Okay, and there are, from art directors to designers to basically some of the people that actually are in supporting the designers, and I'll go a little bit more in detail. But what I've seen is that people that really stand out is people not only that they have the skill of being a creative, of having creativity, but they demonstrate some other traits, like I mentioned before, like persistence, like being like having, like being able to go day in and day out. Right? So some of the, like the interns that work in basically working just day in and day out. Like, let's say that we're working on a campaign. One of the big campaigns that I used to work at one point is in one of the agency. It was a large uh, car company, a very large client for this advertising agency that I used to work on, Crispin and Bogusky. And I saw some of the designers, some of the interns of interns of art directors or interns in the studios, the graphic designers, like literally working there for like 36 hours straight. Just working through, plowing through the work and just been without any sleep, just knowing that it was the deadline was just around the corner, and they were just putting the work, and it was just consistent, it was persistent. So those are the people that really stand out. Those are the people that actually I saw, in my experience, or at least in my perception, of the people who actually made it. Eventually, they climb all the way to actually to the high ranks in the agency, and some of them are actually well recognized in the in our field of marketing and advertising nowadays.
At the moment, I'm doing a different degree in school, and one of the courses I'm doing is human resource management. And in human resource management, one of the things that we discussed was, oh, it was more like a debate. Who should you hire? Should you hire someone with the competency or someone with the character? And I opted for character. My lecturer also agreed with me, and I think that kind of aligns with the example that you gave, because to have that consistency, to have that drive to always get the result, and that's also true for the statement that says practice makes perfect, or practice leads to perfection. So I think I can understand the angle that you come from, and I feel like everything all relates one way or the other. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Over the years, working, with some of my colleagues, and some of the times actually sharing, my opinion regarding some where I have the experience of, being able to be in a position of actually management or helping, assisting management, especially later on during the process of coaching and consulting. So in that process, I have helped many, you know, people in administration or management where actually they go through a process of picking the best candidates, and sometimes it can be, as you probably well know, that is, it can be a very lengthy and sometimes difficult process, because you want someone who actually, the people that it's very important that you actually bring into the team, someone that actually can fit into the culture of the environment. Okay, and so once again, just giving a little bit of a, just as an example, right? Back in the days when I was in that one specific agency that I used to work for, it was very important, like everybody was able to be integrated into the team. So they had all the time they promote in within the framework of like in the work in the space, the actual agency, the camaraderie, like people, like teamwork, right? But they also promoted a lot of events outside. They actually, they did like events outside in the park, like it's just basically playing sports, going out and having something like basically what we call, we're supposed to say, some of them are actually were parties, where actually they were building a teamwork that fit really well in the culture. And so in every, it's very important that when you go through the process of being able to, let's say, for a company, small or large, to be able to have the to basically pick the people that actually will fit well into that, into the work environment.
I want to ask a question about your career. Now you've transitioned from publishing and advertising to coaching, tech, and now AI-driven platforms. So in these different platforms or sectors, what would you define creativity under the different platforms? Because in publishing kind of differs from, it's a different kind of sector. When you talk about coaching, publishing and advertising, of course they are related, but the coaching aspect of your career, the tech aspect, and now AI driven. I know AI and tech, they go hand in hand, but these are like three different platforms that you've tried your hands out in, and not just tried your hands out in, but also creativity to you. What also is the most creative or fulfilling moment in your career, and what made it so impactful?
Okay. Well, thank you so much for that question. Well, I think creativity is key. It's a key and something essential that is basically in every industry. So yeah, it takes different forms. So for example, working for agencies, or working in large corporations, where they actually the creatives are, they bring the ideas. So as working and running and advertising, or being in this field, so you bring a team that being able to, obviously you have and that different type of positions in that. So you say, from an art director, to the graphic designers, to FX, all the other type of creatives that you can have in a team. And so it's not, you are in a world that is, creativity is a commodity. So it's something that something that's been sold, something that something that is so that's what the essence of the business is, and that's how you attract. Yeah, in demand. So that's actually what we sell, right? As far as like the creativity to our potential clients. So in the world of advertising, creativity is key, as essential, as part of what they actually are, what they actually are selling. Okay, and in as far as creativity, let's say in the field of coaching and consultants. Being a consultant is basically you use creativity in different ways, and you use creativity in a way that you market yourself, or you market your services, your company, right? So, and you use different creative ways, as just like every industry evolves over time. So, they all come up with different packages or different type of concepts that they come in, and they have to be creative in basically building these different concepts, these different methods, and that you package and you sell it to to potential clients to bring in. So I'm not an expert on those industry, but as a coach or as a consultant, I could be able to go in and help the person figure out the best possible way to be able to sell the product, to be able to market the product. Okay, so by coaching them, or by being as a consultant, right? Sometimes I'm able to help them figure out the best path moving forward, or creating a roadmap to move forward with the business. So you have to use creativity to be able to come up, with the best possible, the best service, or the best product, or how to market that, right? And as far as being able to build now, building let's say a platform, building an app, is the same way. You use creativity, perhaps in a different form, but you always have to come up, for anywhere from design, from the UX to like the design and the experience that the user is going to have, to being able to be for the application. Let's say so we're working on an application, and it's being able to that the application works well. All the basically the back end is working very well. Like it works well with what the user is expecting to have. So creativity can be expressed in many different forms. So it could be working with a team, as far as like basically selling an idea, to working as in an industry as far as like an entrepreneur, or just in the process of coaching or consulting, and just being able to create a roadmap for the client, or being able to create a platform where you actually need to work on the design, work on how the app or website or whatever platform you're building, it works properly and it's exactly what the user is expecting to gain or to experience.
Thanks, Jose. So, out of the three different forms that you've identified, which is your best? Which do you feel more alive in? Um, and just to add more light to that question, I I can sketch, I can write, I can sing, I can design, of course, I can animate, and in all of these, I have the different emotions that I feel when I'm performing any of the aforementioned skills. But one thing I used to always say, I don't know if that's still true, but before, when I was much younger and I had dreams to be a musician, one thing I used to always tell people is, if you wake me up in my sleep, from my sleep, and you give me a beat, I can write to it. Like I just think and then I write to it. Like that's the thing that comes naturally to me. But I don't know if that's true. I know that with design, I believe you know about How to Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon. So with design, for me, I have to see something to be inspired. I have to learn from other people, check existing designs, and then try to create my own from what I've seen with them. But like with writing, out of nothing, you can put me in a desert and I'm able to think things and then write them. So for you now, with the three major areas that we've identified, that's publishing and advertising, coaching, and also tech. Which area do you feel creativity comes naturally to you?
Well, definitely in the process of designing and actually in coaching and designing, both of them. So it comes very natural. So we know that when we're in the flow of creativity, we can spend, let's say, like let's say that you're writing something, or you're on your computer and you're just typing away, or someone is just focusing on a particular design. They could be working on a website, they could be working on a logo, and they can spend there. You could be there for hours, and it's just you don't even feel the time. So you're in the zone, right? So we call that inspiration, right? So the person is inspired. For you, it's about writing. Like you can come up with different concepts and different stories, which is wonderful. Storytelling. That's what it's all about. Actually, in advertising, it's a storytelling, right? So in that moment that we inspire is that's when like they say, we call it being in the zone. Okay, so for me is when I'm actually designing, and I love web design. So I like creating art
Oh,
out of
nice.
this the websites, and at the same time in the part of coaching, I love just interacting with my clients and being able to come up with different concepts, with different ideas on ways that we can actually overcome any obstacle. And so you have to be very creative at coming up, being able to have a conversation with someone and allow that person, not you as not me as the coach, but the person being able to come up with the solutions where before they felt like there was a roadblock in front of them, and now they can see a path, and so you can see options and see a path moving forward. So the roadmap. So I love working with my clients as far as like in coaching and helping them overcome obstacles and achieve their goal. So and that's where I'm actually in the zone.
Do you think inspiration is mood based, location based, or decision based?
So I think when you ask the question, I think this is I think it's all of them put together. You know, I think if you working in coaching and working, having the practice, obviously, I do a lot of research and a lot of study regarding, human inspiration, human decisions, and with the decisions that we make, where does it come from, right? And studying the newest research in neuroscience and in the field of psychology, we're able to see now that like all this happens at the subconscious level, right? Something that in the part that is not aware, not a conscious logical mind, but it's basically is is surfaced from the subconscious, right? So it's something that we actually. So I believe that is within us already. It's just a way for us to be able to tap into that inspiration, to that energy. So I think it's a decision has to be made that that you are gonna somehow find the solution. So that decision is key. You have to have the intention that it doesn't matter like how many roadblocks you're gonna have, how long it's gonna take. That it's gonna you're gonna be able to find the solution. You're gonna be able to be inspired and like achieve the goal. Okay, and so but at the same time you have to be you have to have the right mindset. So be in the right mood, right? So if we are very like negative, we're down, like we feel like like that, everything is feeling overwhelmed. Obviously those are going to be like mental blocks that are going to prevent us from really achieving our goals, from really tapping into that inspiration. So it's basically ourselves that are basically limiting, those limiting beliefs that we have, right? But when you put in, when you put it all together, as you well, your question is so well structured. Is it is within the mood, it is within the decision, and it comes in from within us, from within our, deep within our subconscious mind.
Is there a place for negative emotions in creativity, or do you have to be level-headed or have a clear mind in order to put out something that is really brilliant?
That's an excellent question. You actually can, you can actually tap into creativity even when like I said, you're in a negative mindset. And I've seen it when I have worked with some of these very talented, uh, either like artists or actually writers. Some of them actually tap into that, you know, um, negativity, or let's say um, feeling of feeling down or melancholic, right? And then they start, the
Yeah.
writing obviously shows or demonstrate what mood that they're in, but what comes out is something very deep, something that it could, that we all can relate to. So yes, of course, it
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
Creativity can come up from a negative place.
Thank you very much, Jose. So the next thing I want us to do is a quick this or that game. And I will be asking you this or that, and you have to pick one as fast as possible. All right. So the first one I have here, coaching 101 or speaking to a packed room,
Coaching 101,
writing a children's book or launching a new tech platform,
launching a new tech,
design first or function first.
designs first,
Whoa, I'm surprised about that one, but let's move to the next one. Mindset coaching or front end coding,
mindset coaching,
AI assisted creativity or pure human instinct.
pure human instinct, definitely.
Publishing a new book or developing a new app.
Hard one, but publishing a new book,
Oh, okay. Helping someone overcome self doubt or helping a startup scale up.
helping the person.
Legacy through words or legacy through innovation.
Legacy through innovation.
Code all night or coach all day.
Coach all day. That's a good question. Thank you.
Hypnosis power or super coding skills.
Hypnosis power.
I love the next two. The first one, pixels or paper.
Believe it or not, paper.
Analog brainstorming or digital whiteboarding?
Analog, definitely.
Creative breakthrough or perfectly brewed coffee?
Creativity, brainstorming.
So the last one I have here is rewriting a chapter or rebranding a website.
Rebranding a website.
I have more questions I want to ask, but I don't want to take much time. So I would ask one of these questions because I feel like somebody, I even have like a few persons that I feel could learn from your experience. And so I'm going to try to blend the three questions into one. And it's more about your writing experience or your writing journey. You've written some books, eight, I think, 8 books, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and and I want to know something. Can you, especially the challenges faced, both mental and physical? And then while doing that, I want you to end with this. What would you say to someone who is experiencing rejections and is starting to question their talents? Do they give up or keep pushing? And at what point is it okay to actually give up?
Okay. So, just talking about the experience of writing as an author, and this so far I have published 7 books. So I'm actually working on the eighth. So you're right in that perspective, working in 8 books so far. So it has been I started my first book in I think I published it in 2013. So, and the book took me about 3 years to start actually on the research and on working on of so the first book is called Mastering Success, and it's more about it's focusing what we call what will be the genre of self-help. Okay, and it's based on the experience that I have with my clients and the knowledge that I basically was able to learn in going back, when I went back to school after many years in advertising. And so there's a learning curve, and with every project, as we all know, with every project we can learn, and we can always improve, on the scale, on the skills, on basically on the process. And as since 2013, basically the world has changed a lot, basically, especially in the last couple of years with AI.
Yeah.
So where
Yeah.
before, like in it could have taken, like I mentioned, 3, 4, 5 years just in research and just writing and editing, and that was actually one of the major roadblocks that I used to face, finding a good editor. Um, and not only finding the good editor, but because there are plenty of very talented editors. But at the same time, if you're not able to find an agent, let's say, and you're gonna basically do a self-publish, or just do an independent publishing in a book, right? So it's all out of pocket. So basically you're able to you're able to find good editors, but if that the other thing is if you can afford a good editor, right? So um so there are many there's still many challenges as far as like writing and publishing a book. So but today, going back to mentioning about AI, how AI is able to help and make the process a little bit easier, as far as like writing and being able to expand on ideas is excellent. So is where something before could take many years just to do the research. Today it could take maybe a few weeks and perhaps a couple of months, where you can actually get some great research, because as we all know nowadays, information is abundant. Where back in I remember back in in the late 90s and early 2000, it really took a lot of time, and you had to actually spend some quite a bit of money to get great research, great content. that you can actually
Yeah.
either include or basically dissect and being able to give your take on in let's say on your writings. Today you can go and you can just subscribe and have just connect with ChatGPT or Gemini or any of the AI platforms, and there you go. That's it. You have all the information at your hands in seconds.
Yeah.
So, and so, for example, the another great example is I have the books that children books. I had a collection of 21 books written for children, and I had them that I worked on over the years, but I never polished them because once again to find a great illustrator, which actually can be being able to work with a great illustrator and being able to afford that type of service, right, was at that point was out of my reach. So today with AI and the image generators, like it's so easy. Like it's just basically I won't say it will replace a great illustrator, but it makes it a lot more accessible to writers like you and I, or the people that are listening to. Like if you're
Yeah.
a writer and like they say that that you include artwork in your book, and then today is just they say that we're in a golden age, right? So it's great, as far as like writing, like as a writer, as an author. Today is actually we live in a great moment, a great time. AI is a great tool.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's what it is, a tool. I know there's a lot of out there now, a lot of content on a lot of the books actually are being AI generated without actually um, very little input from humans. And some of the content or some of the information is excellent. A lot of it is garbage, but but you can find some good information. So, and as far as like that the second part of the question that you mentioned, as far as like like when someone like when someone's feeling like they're in a process and somehow they know they're having doubts if they should continue moving forward with the project they're in or whatever they're in the process that they're in. So
Yeah.
it all depends. It all depends on the person. It all depends. They have to see, where they find themselves, and if really, if they really feel like there is a calling in the process. So, um, and if you don't mind, I will share a little bit of personal history, right?
Yeah.
So, as you mentioned before, when I was they working specifically full time in the advertising industry. I worked there for 17 years, and I was very. I mean, it was an amazing experience. Like in two big companies. One it was specifically all about print and photography. So it was, and that's where I started my career, right? So in that company, and it was great work with great people, a lot of hard work and a lot of learning. So it was a great foundation for the
Mhm.
for for my career. And then when I moved to the second agency, it was a complete different experience. It was a complete different culture, and I enjoyed it so much. Great, once again, great people, a lot of an amazing, talented, creative people that I came across. And that's what I mentioned. I said at the beginning, one part in a conversation that I think I'm a good designer, I'm a good but I have met some people who are amazing, amazing. So um, in that process, so after 14 years working in the advertising agency, I was coming across the world. I was really like doubting myself a lot. I was like really questioning, especially during the late nights when you were working, let's say, on one of the campaigns for, let's say, Microsoft or Volkswagen or one of the. So each time that we actually had a deadline, I'm not exaggerating. We spent 3 or 4 days at the agency without going home. Just sleeping on the couch, being fueled by Red Bull all night long, and just working. You just plowing through. And it's just a wonderful. It was exhausting, but it was a great experience working with so many creatives.
Yeah, yeah, I can
So
imagine.
it's a wonderful experience. But after a while, you start actually making, questioning, so a little bit of, like, okay, I'm in the right path. And I believe, I sense, and and I share opening with your audience, which I appreciate once again, Joshua, for having me here today. um, that with the people that are listening to us, that's part of the process. When you, especially when you work in a large agency, or when you work in a small agency and you start acquiring large clients, you're gonna put in time. That's a given.
Yeah.
Okay, so at that point you have to, in my career, at that point when I reached my career, about 14 years in that process, in that experience, I started making some questions, especially late at night. I was like, am I in the right field? Am I really passionate about this? Am I really, is my heart in it? And I started, like I started getting some answers from within me, and it was like, basically, I think it's time for me to start looking for something different. Okay, because I love I love, being, having, working in a creative team, supporting a creative team. That's wonderful. But my heart was really not in it anymore. So I was basically being, I was what we call a burnout. I was just tired. Okay, so I went back to school. I started looking, like exactly where I wanted to focus on. So I went back to school. I went to, when I started studying psychology, I went there, I studied hypnotherapy. I went into, I started going and getting certified in coaching, and in different type of modalities, right? And at one point, so I decided, I'm gonna go open my private practice. So I actually opened my private practice while I was still in the industry, in the advertising industry,
Okay.
and I was able to use a lot of the skills from the advertising industry, which we know that like in advertising, all the companies, they spend billions of dollars on research in psychology, like in psychology. And there's actually a great book that perhaps, the people in the audience, or people that are listening to, would look into. It's called, how it over here, Jill. This is How Customers Think. It's a great book. How
Mm.
customers think. So it's basically goes into the psychology of the consumer, right? So so I always enjoyed that, like basically the, how people think, how the mind works. So I actually went into that field, and at that point, like I made that transition. Eventually, it was like a year or two. I actually went into that process, into basically working in coaching. Okay, but I use a lot of the skills that I learned in advertising, as far as like being creativity, about marketing my business, being able to continue working with some clients, as far as like, I worked as a freelancer. I opened a second company, like another company, where basically um, I work with clients, and in the process too, about how they want to grow their business. And so, and that's the part that I use in consulting. And eventually, like a couple of years ago, about 3 years ago, I joined a nonprofit, and I work with them, guiding them
Mm.
through the process of being able to have a foothold, online. So using a lot of that, a lot of that knowledge that I learned along the way in the coaching part. So coaching as far as individuals in their personal life, and individuals in the professional life.
Mm.
So once again, it all depends exactly, what you sense, that what you feel you are. So, you have, a person that is having doubts, or having questions about, what to do. They need to pause for a moment and really contemplate, or reflect exactly where they are, and exactly where they want to go. Okay, and that's what, that's one of the points that I help my clients with all the time.
Mm. Thank you very much, Jose. I think that's very enlightening. One of the reasons this question was very personal for me is because one of my desires is to write. I don't know if before you started writing, I don't know if you had these moments where you look back at your conversations with people, or you have interactions with people and you hear them uh, thank you so much for the contribution that you've made, or how your advice helped them, or you see them nodding positively as if digesting whatever it is that you are telling them, and feel like maybe I have something in me. I don't know if you ever like doubted yourself before, but then you start thinking that maybe there is actually value in me that I can give out. And maybe I should take note of the things I also tell people and all that, because that happens to me a lot. I go through previous chats, and the funny part is it acts as if I'm sending my future self letters. I'm not one of those people who do that, but it feels like that sometimes. And so I go through chats, and sometimes I stumble on them, and it's randomly. And I look at something and I'm like, wow, okay, I think this makes sense. I even start adopting those things at that particular point in my life. And so in my head, if I can compile all these things that I share with people into one package, I feel like it will be very, very valuable to everybody that comes across it. And so it's also something that I like. I when I read books, I'm more of a mental person. I like books on mindset. I like books on self-help books and all, but more of mindset books. I love Kobe Bryant. I love Cristiano Ronaldo, because these are mentality monsters, and so I'm inspired by them. I want to be able to get in certain zones in order to become something, to achieve something. And so I read these books to help me. And when I read some of these books, it's amazing how much information people sleep on. And so I also want to add my own quota to that world of knowledge. And so I don't know if that happened to you, but that's why this was very personal to me, because one thing I've always struggled with is where to start from, how to start and all. And so hearing you speak about your own experience, and I'm grateful you shared the story. And please, I don't know how many other episodes we're going to have together, but please, I want you to always feel free to share the stories, because you can't tell who is learning from you. I love what you said about pausing and reflecting on whether that's something you actually want to pursue. And I think I would think more about it, and I will also take that step. But I'm glad that you touched on this. Thank you very much, Jose.
No, thank you, Joshua. And eh, that happens to me all the time. In reality, it happens to everyone. As I mentioned, like, so helping with my clients in coaching, and by this time, I have helped thousands of people, both in individual, in on private sessions, right, and in group, and giving like going into workshops or just giving a presentation, right. I have worked with all the coaches actually working in the corporate level, as far as like going in training, or so I have worked in different settings. And believe me when I say, from the top all the way to I everyone experienced at one point in the process in their career doubts, and they question themselves. But you're right, Joshua. Look at, you're opening this space, okay, and this is a space that right now you're helping people. Someone's going to listen, and it's going to come across, and the questions that you ask, the insight that you bring, your own experience, they're going to see, they're going to be able to say, that's exactly what I'm going through, or this is what I needed to hear today. I was having a bad day. And so by you creating this platform, creating this, and believe me when I say, okay, because I have been in several podcasts, and I work with people that that actually that they want, one of their goals is to have that, build or work with a platform or being an influencer, right? Putting that together, is and helping people. That's is something that is so you don't realize how important it is, and it always starts small. It always there's always there's and that's something funny that I heard someone actually talk about one of my clients, and says, like, she was looking at her earlier work, and she said, sometimes I'm embarrassed of the work that I did when I was like when I started, and I was like, I listened to your work, and I thought it was wonderful. And she's like, no, I hate, I'm embarrassed. I don't even want to see it.
It's
But
how I'm
that's what,
embarrassed by the network lag that I'm experiencing now.
but that's how I start. But what's important is that if you feel, you sense that, you have the intention of helping people, and if you sense that it has that you bring in value to people, and it has a purpose. So, just, yeah, and if you enjoy doing it, obviously, right? Just, yeah, but just build on what you have, what you're setting right now. So I can tell you right now that like, if you obviously, as you continue your expanding and continue making more episodes, let's say, in this podcast, this great space that you're opening, because it's a great space where you allow people to come in and have a conversation, have different point of views, and bring in your own stories and your own questions into this process. You see that over time, as you build this, you see that how it will expand, and how you create an audience, you create followings, and you will help people. That's all it is. That's just, that's what we're here for. In fact.
Thank you very much, Jose. Really, this means a lot to me. And I know that that's a very, very cliche statement, but it means a lot to me. I mean, so just to name a few, some of the challenges that we've had, like this very first episode, the network lag and all, and also the quality. But all I keep telling myself, and I want this to be as transparent as possible. So I'm not even trying to, like, no filters. All I keep telling myself is this is the first one, and it's not going to be like this. My belief is the next time I have you present, it's going to be spectacular. The quality, everything, the sound, and all, it's going to be awesome. And when I hear you say this, and when you share your sentiments towards this platform, I really, really, really feel good about it, and I feel encouraged to keep at it. So thank you very much. Means a lot to me.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate your kind words. And once again, I'm extremely honored that I'm, the first, your first podcast. So I can always say, you know, you, that great podcast, that everyone knows, Joshua and his podcast. I was the first one there. I was the first one there. I can say that. So I'm extremely honored. Thank you so much. And I would love, anytime that you feel, anytime that, like, whatever in the future you feel that, yeah, you want me back, another invitation, I'll be honored to be here. And once again, it's very kind of you, and I really appreciate it.
So grateful. Thank you very much, Jose. So before we go, I have one last question for you. It's pretty straightforward. Don't worry, I'm not going to stress you too much.
No,
So the question is this: where do you see yourself in the next 5 years, and what are you doing about it?
in the next 5 years, oh, sorry, I don't want to be. Can I share something really quick with the audience? Okay,
Please.
so as a designer, creative, and I see a lot of this in a lot of the young designers, or the people who start in the business. It's very important that right from the beginning, and it doesn't have, you don't, it doesn't have to be set in stone, but it's very important that you create a roadmap, that you create a plan. Like, just, it's like starting a business. Even if you're working for someone else, create a 1 year goal, a 3 year goal, a 5 year goal. It's a path that you're taking. If you are an entrepreneur, it's key that you have a business plan, an action plan. Okay. In fact, if you have a great idea or product or service, and you need the fundings, you need some type of investor, you need to go to the bank to get a loan. No investor, no bank will ever lend you any money unless you have a business plan, unless you have an action plan. Okay, so it's key. So one of the things that like for the new for people that are new to to this industry, like the designers, creators, um, entrepreneurs, is essential that they have a plan, a roadmap. It doesn't have to be in great details. It doesn't have to be set in stone. In fact, I tell my clients, like a business plan is alive. It's a live document because it will shift over time. Okay? You have to go and revisit it every so often, right?
Yeah.
So the way that so I do have my roadmap. So from here to 5 years, I see myself already, with these two platforms already, basically working online, helping people and being successful, and
Yeah.
that in the social platform, I've been able to reach to people, and this is a specific type of platform. So I see it as being able to be part of of as that system helping people connect. Okay, because I believe that's one of the one of the issues that we're facing as a culture is the lack of connection. We're very polarized nowadays, so
Yeah.
it's about being able to connect people again. So and that's what I want with the two platforms and the app. So being able to see 5 years from now, they're running, and I'm in the process of just expanding.
Thank you very much, Jose. I love that you added that. Thank you very much. When you were talking, I was looking around for my jotter, but then I reminded myself that this session is recorded, and so I'm definitely going to see it over and over again. The thing you said about having a plan, that's very important, and I think I've heard it somewhere that it's very important that one takes whatever business that they are doing, no matter how small it is, as a professional business and plan for it as they will plan for a big project. And so I think that's very, very, very helpful. And it's something that I'll be more intentional about moving forward. So thank you very much, Jose.
Once again, thank you so much for having me, and I'm very honored to be the first, your first guest in your very successful podcast career.
Amen to that. Thank you very much. So I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank
We'll
you.
stay in touch, definitely. Thank you very much, Jose.
Thank you, Joshua. Take care.
All right, you too. Bye.
Bye.